So today I'm going to be replacing the water pump on my 2018 Dodge Durango SXT. So that's going to be the 3.6 liter V6. So I have my water pump here. It does come with a gasket, and it's Mopar part 68311108AE. So I got that here. You're also going to need a pair of pliers, 10 mil, 13 mil, and 16 mil socket. A couple of extensions. I have a 3/8 stubby and a regular length 3/8 inch ratchet. I have an 8 mil socket here for the air intake tube. A magnet, because no doubtedly I'm going to drop one of these sockets or one of these damn tools into the bottom of the engine bay. A flathead screwdriver to kind of get the hoses loose, and finally some I just have some magnetic dishes. That way I can put my sockets in and my screws as I'm taking them off of the old water pump. Of course, you're also going to need some coolant. I do have the Mopar coolant here. I have two jugs of these, one here and one over there, waiting. You're going to need about 1.5 gallons. So 1.5 of those containers right there. And the Prestone coolant, that's for one of my older vehicles. I always recommend putting Mopar coolant or OEM in all of your vehicles. Don't go with aftermarket stuff. So yeah, this is what you're going to need to complete this job. So today I'm going to be replacing the water pump, which is this one right here. You can tell from the hoses that come in and out of it. Now, I suspected it was leaking because, number one, my coolant level over here was extremely low, and you can see all the residual white stuff that's on that cross member there. That was all basically dried up coolant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be replacing that. So we're going to start off by removing the engine cover. We have the engine cover off. We're going to remove the intake tube with an 8 mil there and an 8 mil there. Of course, you can use a flathead screwdriver, but I'd just rather use an 8mm socket. So let's get that taken off. I have the intake taken off and have it set over to the side. Next, we're going to remove this vacuum canister. We're going to remove this line, this 16mm bolt here, this 16mm bolt here, and this 10mm bolt here. And what that'll do is that'll pull this entire bracket as well as this canister right off, so we have better access to the water pump down there. We have the vacuum canister out of the way, so it gets us more access to the bolts that are around the water pump. So now what we're going to do is we're going to remove the belt. Now, before you loosen the belt with this tensioner pulley here, you want to take a picture of the way the belt is routed. That way when you go to put it back on, you won't have to worry about second guessing. The belt off, we can see more of where the coolant was leaking right here. You can see it there, and then of course all the dried up stuff that's down there. I'm gonna have to remove this. Idler pulley is actually attached to the water pump housing. This one right here, the idler pulley, is actually a 13 mil. So we're gonna take a 13 mil, take this off, and then finally get the hoses undone. This hose here and this hose here. So I have the idler pulley removed. So one thing that I am doing is as I'm removing bolts from the old water pump, I'm going to be placing them on the new water pump in their corresponding spots, so that way I don't get confused, because you're going to have different sizes and different length bolts. So this is the idler pulley here with a 13 mil. It just goes there, and as I'm pulling bolts off, I'll place them on the new one. So when it's time to put them over, I'll know where they go. Got the hoses disconnected and everything down there, see? And I had to disconnect this hose or this metal hose to the thermostat housing so that I can gain access to these 3 bolts up here. Now this one's a 13 mil bolt, this one's a 13 mil bolt, this one's a 16 mil bolt, and then the rest of the ones that go along the outer edge of the water pump are all 10 mil. So you got 13, 13, 16, and then the rest are 10 mil. And then with that, the water pump will just come right off. As I said before, as I'm taking the bolts out of that water pump, I'm placing them in this water pump so that when it goes time to install this one, I'll know where these bolts go. But like I said, it's 13, 13, 16, and then the rest of these, I believe there's 10 that go around. Those are also 10 mil. This one's a 10 mil as well. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9. So 9, 10 mil, and then 2, 13, and then the 116. So we're back on my workbench, and this is the reason why I think it's important to put the bolts on the new one before or as you're taking them off the old one. Now this is the new one still, and this is the reason why I think that's important. So I have the 13 mil here, 13 mil here, 16 mil as before. The rest of these are 10 mil, and there's 9 of them, including the idler pulley. And the reason it's important is because this one, of course, is going to be a long bolt. This 1, 2, 3, those 3, this one 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4 are like this standard length here. If I can get it to focus, or this length, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 are longer, as you can tell here. So this one, so the ones that are the 4 that are alongside the right side of the pulley of the pump pulley are going to be these longer ones, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 are going to be the shorter ones that you see here. Yeah, so that's another reason why it's important to place your bolts as you're taking them off. So here we have the old water pump and the new water pump. So yeah, what I'm going to do at this point is, because this is the new one, I'm going to take all these bolts and just swap them over to these holes. And then as I'm bolting this one on, I'm going to be taking the bolt from this one and bolting this one to the engine block. I don't know what I'm going to do with this old water pump. I might disassemble it just for the fun of it. I do have my new gasket there that came with the new pump. So what we're going to go ahead and do is just get it installed in reverse order. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the gasket on the back side of the new pump, and then I'm probably going to start off with this big bolt here up top, and then move to probably this one here at the bottom to get it seated properly. And then I'm just going to go around placing all these bolts in and hand tightening them until I go back through and I torque them down. I don't have the torque specs in front of me, but I believe it's like 20 something pounds, but I'll leave that in the description below. Here we are now. We have the new water pump on. I have the hoses already clamped back on. The little one up here as well. I have all the bolts torqued down. I have the belt ran the way it's supposed to be ran. Okay, so now we got everything hooked back up. Got all of the sensors connected. Got the vacuum canister back connected. Right now, what I did is, as soon as I put everything back together, I filled up the coolant tank with coolant. Now what you have to do is you have to fill it up and then let it go down. It took that entire canister right there, as well as half of this one right here. So that got it full. As soon as the engine was turned on, a big air bubble came out and sucked in a whole bunch of coolant. So right now all I'm doing is having my wife
keep an eye on the temperature, and I'm just keeping an eye on this coolant reservoir to make sure that it doesn't bottom out. So far it's been doing pretty good. I've only had to add about a half a quart of the coolant since I filled it up, and right now you can see it's about halfway between min and max. It's right underneath the M for max, so I'm gonna let it run and run and run. Hopefully the thermostat will open, and then once that opens, another bubble might come out, and then I'll have to top it off again. So that's what you're gonna want to do. Now when I turned the engine on, the belt or the pulley did squeak for a bit, but I reckon that's normal. Quick update. I ran to Target to get some stuff, which is about a 4-mile round trip. So I drove up to Target and back, and the coolant, I guess the thermostat did open because the coolant did lower a bit more. The coolant level did go down a bit more. So I'm gonna wait about an hour or two for the engine to cool down and the pressure to release, so that I can take off the cap and then fill, or not fill, but you know, put some more coolant, probably to the max. So I am gonna fill it. But other than that, she drove just fine. No leaks on this piping right here, which is a good indicator that everything is fixed. Of course, this is a new water pump, so there should be no leaks, but no leaks from this clamp or from that clamp as far as I can tell, because these are the two clamps that I removed, and I don't see any other water accumulating, letting me know that all of the bolts are tightened down correctly. So yeah, this is a quick update. I did put the engine cover and everything back on, so this was a good project. It took me around about total actual work time about an hour. I have a buddy that works at the dealership that said he could do it in about 30 minutes, and of course he has more experience than I do, but an hour for this whole project isn't too bad. I started at about 10 o'clock this morning, and factoring in the fact that I took a break to eat some breakfast and then come out here, I got finished around 11:30 or so. So not bad all in all. I gotta say, it's a pretty good job.